Now, the first thing we need to do for your employees is define success. Defining success for your staff is extremely important because that's going to give them the structured framework to evaluate their performance. We can set goals with them that align to the company's annual goals and provide feedback. Most will want to do the right thing, but without defining success, they're not going to know what it looks like. Now, another great purpose of performance reviews is giving credit where credit is due. Most are going to start out great. They're going to be drinking the Kool-Aid, volunteering to get involved. So it's really important to give them credit right from the start and keep that momentum going. You'll also want to give feedback to your rock stars too. Make sure they understand you're not taking them for granted and you really appreciate them going above and beyond consistently. Now, you can also catch problem areas too. If you're consistent with the process, you'll catch problem areas right away and before they become major disruptions for your clients and your staff. And if you do find a problem area, just communicate it without spin. Stick to the facts. Take the emotion out of constructive feedback. Be direct and kind with them. Now, this year-end review process will foster career development because career development at an MSP is critical to the MSP's success. So we're going to bake that right into the review process. This is going to help foster growth with your staff, show them that you're interested in investing in them and their success. Career development at an MSP is so important. I look at it right from the start of the recruiting process. And lastly, this year-end review process will generate a year-end compensation score. This will make calculating raises extremely easy. At the end of the year, you'll get a compensation score that directly translates to your employees' raise percentage. All right, now that we know why we should be doing performance reviews and some of the benefits, we'll get into the meat and potatoes of the form itself. So up top, you'll be entering in the first and last name of the employee, the title that they're given, performance year and quarter. So if it was 2024 Q1, this is essentially what that would look like. On the Word templates of this, you'll be able to enter in your company's vision and the company's values. This is actually going to be a table, so you can edit according. Now on the performance and development goals, brief explanation of what that is. Here's some definitions that basically outline the goals that we're setting are going to be SMART. And there's two main sections of the performance review. The top section, that's going to be the objective section. That's going to be KPIs, goals, etc. And then the bottom section, that's going to be the subjective piece where we measure your employees to your company values. So here's 3 performance metrics. The templates you'll be able to edit to however many metrics are part of your performance reviews. Quarter goals, huge fan of quarter goals. As you're doing your annual planning for the company, you can trickle your company goals down to the team by breaking them into smaller chunks and then essentially dishing out quarter goals for the staff to complete. Again, you can enter in the title, how we're going to measure it, essentially the history of how they performed in the notes section. Again, we got a rating scale of 1 to 5 and essentially how they performed against that particular goal that was set. And if a particular individual started mid-year, you can essentially null that out by just saying not applicable. So again, there's a spot for 4 quarter goals for the year, and then on to the development goal. Again, it's imperative that everyone is working on some sort of training if they are a tech or engineer. And I really highly recommend having everybody have some sort of development goal that they're working on. The more skills that your techs and engineers have, obviously the more things you can accomplish at your MSP. So it's really good that everybody works on something. Typically it's going to be a cert. Later on in the video, I'll have a couple of examples of techs and engineers, project managers, and vCIOs as far as what a review could look like for them. Down below is the subjective piece. This is where we're going to measure your employee against your core values. So on the word template again, you'll be able to enter in your core values. I've just listed them, core values 1 through 3 for simplicity's sake. And then ultimately these are checkboxes. So if they did great, you can mark it there, maybe satisfactory there, and hey, they knocked it out of the park on core value 3. I will say if anyone gets below the bar, so if 3 is the bar, if they're below the bar, enter in something in the comments section just to go into a little bit more detail to formalize it. So, details here, essentially. And then what you'll do in the overall rating is the average numbers of above. What I mean by above is not just in the core value section, but the actual whole performance review. So each one of these has a rating. You'll add them up, divided by the number, and there's your average score. That's what gets entered in there. Now, the first thing that we need to do is prepare your team. And no matter where you're at in the current review process, and really before you implement any change, you really got to prep the team. Don't catch them flat-footed. Keep them updated on the who, the what, the when, and phrase something like this as a positive and how it's actually going to improve things. Going into the conversation, know who your squeaky wheels are. Usually there's always one out there. So just prepared to answer questions that they have. Working with a bunch of brilliant techs and engineers, they like to ask questions, so just be prepared yourself. Now that you have the team prepped, you do want to create the review schedule. You can make this a repeatable process by adding recurring invites into your employees' calendars. So create them for the monthly one-on-ones, the quarterly reviews, and of course the annual year-end review. That way you'll see them coming up. You'll be prepared for it, and if your day's crazy, you can adjust as needed, etc. Just be respectful to your employees' time as well. Really only reschedule if it's critical. I also recommend creating a recurring appointment for yourself for the actual review prep. That way you're making time and something doesn't get scheduled over it. Now, when it is time for the review, here's how to conduct it. First, have all the information compiled before going into the review. Don't wing it. That's not going to be helpful for the employee, your business, and your clients. So be prepared to talk on coaching opportunities. That's positive and constructive feedback. And don't let issues build up. If you do, you're going to turn what could be an easy conversation, if addressed early, into a hard one because that employee has already built that habit. And lastly, check the download section of this course for some pro tips on handling defensive employees. There's some bonus material there. And in between your quarterlies, you should be following up with one-on-ones. And really depending on where you're at in your MSP journey, you may have some bandwidth time constraints. Trust me, I know. So you might not be able to get the one-on-ones in. Just, again, communicate with your team. No such thing as over-communication. Just be transparent with that. Now, you can come away with all sorts of great insights by meeting with your employees regularly. But the main reasons are, one, it keeps a closer pulse of your staff. And two, you can follow up with any items from the quarterlies. Now, you do want to keep the monthly one-on-ones a little less formal, more conversational versus, always diving into metrics and stuff like that. Now, to get the conversation going, here are a couple of icebreaker topics. And then once the conversation is flowing, you really want to make sure you're asking for any roadblocks, barriers, anything you can help out with. Now, in closing, I always ask for feedback from the staff. I always want to hear any improvements or really kind of where their head is on my management style. That way I can adjust as needed and really have a good understanding of the emotional intelligence you'll need doing reviews. Here we have the review template, and we're going to role play as if I am a field team tier 3, and we're going to pretend it is quarter 3 of 2024. We'll get down into the performance metrics, the objective section. And if you are a tech or engineer in the service department, you are going to be measured by 3 main KPIs. First one is resolving tickets within the given SLA, utilization goal, and the customer satisfaction or CSAT. And then how these things are written. Obviously, this is the title. Actions, that's going to be our scoring. So if they do knock out 91% or higher tickets according to the SLA, they'll score out as a 5. And then same thing, if they do 86% through 90%, that's a 4, etc. down the line. And that scoring system is essentially the same for all of the goals and metrics we're going to be measuring. Now, in the notes section, you'll see the current quarter, quarter 3, they did grade out as a 93%, resolving tickets within the SLA. And then we'll also see the historic value. We have quarter 1, they did a 94%. Quarter 2, they did do 94% as well. All of those, if you look at the system, would be a 5. Same concepts apply for utilization and customer satisfaction. Now, you will see that the grading scales are different, but the concept still applies. So you can test and tweak what makes sense for your MSP. Down into the quarter goals. Love quarter goals. This is a good way to distribute your company's overall goals for the year down to your staff. Now, there's some common ones that I do use for the service department, if nothing directly translates from a company goal. One of them being the changing the administrator password on client accounts. So here we have listed out 10 clients. These are the ones that they need to reset for that quarter. Here's how we're going to grade it. And then here's how that person performed. So if they got a 5, they did reset all 10 of these accounts. Client documentation is another great goal. I love to keep these things updated. So essentially this one has update rack and network topology diagrams for 2 clients. On this particular one, we're going to grade it out. If they updated both, they got a 5. If they only updated one, they got a 3, which they did only update one. And we'll just say that was client B. We have here quarter 3 goal. This was the current quarter being measured. Again, definitely look at your documentation for quarter goals, what gaps there are, and prioritize accordingly. Here we have writing a standard operating procedure on implementing Veeam. This one, they got a goose egg on, so they didn't even start on this one. Shame on them. Quarter 4, that's future for this particular role play. And then development goals, these things are great. This particular development goal is to obtain the Endpoint Administrator certification for Microsoft 365, the MD 102. And ultimately, if they obtain the certification, they'll get a 5. If they don't, they get a 0. Down here, we do have the due date. This is currently in progress, and they're about 90% to completion. Down here, we have the subjective piece, the core values. In this example, we have 3 core values that we're going to be looking at. Be awesome, be amazing, and be cool. So this follows the same grading system as above, 1 through 5. And then ultimately, you can just mark in here how they performed. I do recommend adding in some color commentary. If they do get a number 5, just highlight what they did really well. And if they are below the bar, and what I mean by that is if we're on a 1 through 5 scale, there has to be a middle ground, which is satisfactory, the number 3. So if it's anything less than 3, highly recommend giving some color commentary on how they can improve moving forward. And then here's the additional comment section. Always great to leave some commentary in there as well. Here we have examples for that field team tier 3 in both the Q3 quarterly and the year-end review. And to scroll down into the KPI sections, just so you can see what it looks like at the year-end. We did add in the year-end average up at the top here. We have all of the quarters outlined below. Obviously, this is the average then of all the quarters combined, which they got a 94 and graded out as a 5. Apply those concepts to the rest of the performance reviews, or the performance metrics rather. And then if we get into the quarter goals, so what I did do on the year end on this side is I added in the missed rack and network diagrams from the previous quarter. So if we recall here, the individual didn't update both rack and network diagrams. It's still important, still easy to get across the finish line. So if they didn't do client B, I added it into the Q4 goal. This time they did knock both of them out. Congratulations. Now, development goal, if you take a look at it, Q3 they were in progress at 90%. Q4 they got it across the finish line. So they did grade out a 5 on that one. It's complete. And then down into the core values, what I like to see is progress being made throughout the year. So we got a good on Be Awesome, or in Q3 we did a number 4 on Be Awesome, number 5 on Be Amazing, and then Be Cool. We had some improvements that needed to be made, and this particular individual did make some improvements. So they moved from a 2 up to a 3, and we said, hey, keep it up. And that did improve their overall rating from a 3.8 to a 4. Now here's a sample review for a project manager just to give you an idea of some of the metrics you can use. The ones that I use at Effective MSP are projects completed on time, projects completed within budget, and the CSAT for the project completion. So after the project is done, we send out a survey, and then the score based on that survey. So again, same concepts. We got our year end, the previous quarter accumulation down below, and this is a good example of how I break out how these metrics are going to be scored for project managers. Now, some of the quarter goals that I do use for project managers, one is updating documentation. That's a very common goal for all major roles. Project templates, highly recommend using project templates. Every now and again, you do need to update what those projects are. This is a good outline for a quarter goal on updating the client onboarding project template. Here's one for a client offboarding. And then say, for example, we're rolling out AUVIC for this MSP. You can actually utilize the project manager to roll out some of your services. And let's just say this one, we have a quarter goal baked around deploying AUVIC at 8 client sites. And in this particular example, they did all but one of them. And if they did 9 sites deployed, they would actually get a 4. Good certification for project managers. A great place to start is the CompTIA Project Plus. And this is how the core values look on this particular individual. And in this example here, we'll look at the metrics for vCIO. vCIOs, the common metrics that I use are the SLA on client requests, the overall client ticket per user average, and the client stakeholder CSAT. If you need help on creating KPIs or how to measure these, definitely reach out to me. But in this particular example, year-end average, we'll just take a look at the SLA on client requests. They got a 94, which is grading out as a 5. Again, apply those same concepts from before across the board here. Some of the common quarter goals I use for vCIO is contract true-ups, hugely important for MSPs. Other ones are updating standard operating procedures or SOPs. This one's to include the security awareness metrics for the client when they're doing the QBR prep. And then lastly, if you are rolling out new products, it's really important to make sure everybody is ramped up on it. So in Q4, this individual is taking the product training course for Auvik. Here we have the year-end compensation spreadsheet. This is the actual spreadsheet you'll calculate your year-end reviews in. Here we have 2 examples down at the bottom. We have John Doe, and then we have me acting as Field Team Tier 3. So the first thing I want to highlight is for John Doe, they started mid-year in April of 2023, so we do want to prorate the raise. I have a section right here for the proration. Ultimately, what you need to do is divide the working amount of months to the months available. So if they started in April, I do round in the employee's favor. So they essentially worked 9 months out of the year. 9 months divided by 12 months. 9 working months divided by 12 actual months equals 0.75. So that is their proration. If they work the full year, you just enter in a number 1. Now, if we take a look at my example here, we do need to fill in the metrics for 2023 here if we're reviewing 2023. So I'll take a look at the review here, which I do have loaded up. We'll go into the performance metrics section and then ultimately just fill in the numbers. So we got a 5 on SLA, 5 on utilization, 4 on CSAT. We'll drop down into Q1 goal. That's a 5. Number 3 for Q2 goal. We got a goose egg on quarter 3, and then a 5 on Q4 goal. Look at the development goal. They got it complete. Grade out a 5 there. Then ultimately, we're ending on the core values. So you need to average out this. This will be a 4. And then this equals their compensation score. So the actual average score will be their raise percentage, and the spreadsheet will do the math for you. So let's just say, for example, they didn't do as good in the top section. Let's say they got a 3, they got a 2, and a 1. But they knocked out the rest pretty good. So that automatically calculates what that raise percentage will be for them. I'm also going to throw in 2 additional templates. One of them is the compensation adjustment form. Again, this is a Word document. You can edit according to your needs and then save it as a PDF. Here you can put in the adjustment, information, effective date, etc. So this one's for you. And then 2, sometimes you do need to do some formal counseling. Here's a form for that as well. Again, save them as PDFs, add in the signature blocks, and away you go. Now, this course comes with quite a few downloadable deliverables. One of them is the goal evaluation sheet here. So this is going to give an outline of the grading system. So it's going to be on a scale of 1 through 5. 5 being, significantly exceeding expectations. This is usually pretty tough to get, but on occasion I do get a couple of 5s for those that are really going above and beyond. And then the bottom of the barrel is a number 1 where they didn't even come close to meeting expectations, essentially. So this is going to be editable. You can change some of the text in here if you want, but this gives a great framework of what the expectations are in the system. And here's just an overview of the sections here. We'll be breaking this as you scale down into 3 main milestones. When you get your first tech, introducing team leads, then introducing an operations leader. Now, you'll be doing the review process for the start. I love this because it gets what I call the current going on a process. It will be challenging running your business, keeping clients happy, and now managing your first tech or 2. So time management will be crucial. Stick to your calendar and take notes throughout the day on your employees. You will need to get monthly one-on-ones going with your first few techs. This gets your first tech or 2 in sync with you. And then when you start adding techs, they're going to start asking questions, not to you first, but to that first tech or 2. So it's important to start off clean. It is going to be hard keeping monthly one-on-ones going as you start scaling. Keep them as long as you can. And then when you can't fit them in any longer, let your team know. So at a bare minimum, do quarterlies if you're at that point, and then keep the quarterlies going until you can hire your team leads and start handing things off. I will reiterate, you cannot miss the quarterlies. They are too important. All right, congrats on getting a team lead. You're now starting to hand off some processes. The first thing you need to do is to get your team leads up to speed. You want to make sure they understand what success looks like at your MSP before they actually start managing a team. And then once they're up to speed and managing, you can prepare them for taking over the review process too. What better way than to watch this course, minus the As You Scale section, and that's for you. You'll want to close loop with them and do a dry run before they actually start running with the process. And in that dry run, walk through a sample review, and then have you role play as one of the members of the team. This is going to be good because you'll already have built a relationship with that employee, and you'll have a good understanding of how that employee will receive the feedback. You'll also want to prepare the team for the handoff of the review process. This doesn't have to be elaborate, but let them know as early as when you post for the team lead position. And then lastly, you'll want to hand off the process, have a date set and communicated with the team on when this is actually going to happen. And then you will need to let the team lead know you'll be reviewing them. And then once that date comes, just execute. Now, you will be reviewing the team lead, and team leads will be reviewed on the aggregate numbers of their team. So if their team is successful, they will be successful, which should drive the right behavior there. And if they are an active contributor, make sure they're a team lead first and then a technician. And then the core values section on the review form, they're going to be reviewed as an individual there. And you're really scaling if you're hiring an operations leader, so congratulations there. We'll be following the same handoff process with your operations leader as we did with the team leads. Again, we'll be doing repeatable processes here. The first thing we have to do is get your operations leader up to speed. And just like with the team leads, you have to make sure they understand what success looks like before they start managing. And once they are up to speed and leading the department, you can prepare them for taking over the review process of the team leads, which of course they'll take this course on year-end reviews. You may want to have them watch the As You Scale video for the team leads if you see value there. You want to close loop with them as far as what the process looks like. Once they are prepared, you'll want to also prepare the team for the handoff. Again, this does not have to be elaborate, but make sure the team has a good understanding of what's going on as soon as you start posting for that position. Now, once everyone is up to speed, it is time to hand off the process. Have a date set. Make sure it's well communicated with the team on when the shift of reviews is going to happen, so everyone's not caught flat-footed on that. And then you do need to make sure that the operations leader knows you're now going to review them. And how we're going to be reviewing the operations leader, very similar to the team leads, and that is on the aggregate numbers of their team. Again, if the team leads are successful, they're going to be successful. So pretty much everything in the system likes to trickle down there. Now, it is really important that the operations leader is not part of like an active contributor, because at the end of the day, somebody needs to steer the ship. And then their core values section on the review will be reviewed against them as an individual.